Hello and welcome back. So today I'll be doing a review of This Is Where It Ends by Marieke Nijkamp. So this book is set in, I believe, a fictional. So I can't speak today. Words. It's set in a fictional town in America called Opportunity, and it takes place at Opportunity High School. And it tells the story of a school shooting from 4 different perspectives over the course of 54 minutes. Now, the four characters that we read the perspectives of in this book, all know the identity of the shooter. One of them is the sister of the shooter. One of them is the girlfriend of the sister of the shooter. One of them is one of the shooter's friends. And yeah, so it's told from those 4 different perspectives. And 2 of the people, Thomas and Farid, are on the... the school shooting takes place in the auditorium, kind of in the middle of the school, like in the hub. And there are, I think, 2 perspectives, no, 1 perspective maybe, of one of these people in the auditorium. And then on the second floor, like the floor above, when this shooting happens, there is also a perspective of 2 other characters from that level. And then there are the perspectives of 2 people who are outside of the school but still on school property when the shooting takes place. So it takes place from different points of view and different places around the school. And I thought that was a really good idea. Because I thought, we're going to get like different perspectives of like what's happening in these different places at the same time. Because obviously the people in the auditorium know what's happening, and they know the identity of the shooter. That's not a spoiler. It's in the first chapter or 2. They know the identity of the shooter, and they're in the main place where the shooting has taken place. And then I also thought it was clever because we got the perspective of the people outside of the school that were practicing their running because they have a competition coming up. So that's why they missed the assembly before the shooting took place, and they were outside. So that I thought was going to be a cool perspective. And also the people on the floor above where the shooting is taking place down below. I thought that was a good perspective as well, because like I said, we would have got different perspectives of the same thing that was happening, but from different places and different people all around the area. And for the most part, I think that was done quite well. I will say I was disappointed by this book. I have a weird fascination with reading about and learning more about mass shootings, but especially school shootings, which obviously, as we all know, kind of only really happen in America at the moment. Nothing has happened like that in the UK for a very long time. But I have this weird fascination with it, and I've read many books about school shootings, real and fictitious, and that kind of spurred me to find out which was the best YA telling of a school shooting. And when I did my research, this was rated the highest, so that's why I picked this up. I read Columbine by, who is it? David Cullen, I think, and that was based on a real school shooting at Columbine High in Columbine in America, and that was about 15 years ago. I think it was in the 90s, and that book was incredible. It was basically told from the perspective of one of the officers who investigated the case and was there from the beginning all the way to the end. And it was basically like a memoir, like an account of what actually happened on that day from his perspective. But it read like a novel, and it was brilliant, and I couldn't put it down. And it was like a 500-page book, and I read it in about 2 days, which I read it about 5 years ago, so to me, back then, 2 days was brilliant to read a 500-page book. I did have problems with this. The reason I mentioned like my fascination with the school shootings and stuff is because, like I said, I did a lot of research and figured out which was the best YA story of a school shooting. And like I said, this came out on top, so I was very excited to read this. And I was kind of let down. Like I said, the fact that it's set in a fictitious place was an interesting idea, and it actually gave the author kind of permission, almost, or artistic license to kind of set up the story however she wanted. So the two people that are running the track and that are practicing for the track and field race, when the shooting happens, obviously they hear the gunshots and they get scared, so they kind of like try and leave the school grounds to go to the town, which is called Opportunity, to get help. And that's a good idea. But I don't know. Like, I thought some parts of it were quite insensitive. Like, I will say, for the first, I don't know, 200 pages, no, actually, for the first, like, 150 pages, this was really good. And I was very invested in it, and I was caught up in the whirlwind of what was happening and all the perspectives, and, like, the fact that all the people whose perspectives we read from knew the shooter, and obviously had known him in the past and all that stuff. That was very interesting to read their perspectives and to kind of get an insight as to maybe why he thought that he could exact this like massacre on everybody who let him down. I thought that was interesting. But so yeah, like I said, from the first kind of 150 pages was really good. I was really invested, and then it just kind of got a bit silly and insensitive. Silly as in the girl who is in the auditorium at the time of the shooting is the sister of the shooter. That's not a spoiler. And at some point in the book, she just kind of feels like she feels obliged to go up on the stage and speak to him and try and reason with him, which is fine. That would have been fine. But it goes on for chapter after chapter after chapter after chapter, and it's just to me, it's stupid. And also, it's a bit insensitive because the two perspectives, well, the guys who were on the first floor when the shootings happened, I don't know why, maybe because they're a bit detached from it because they're not right in the centre when it's happening, but they're kind of just stupid, and they make these stupid remarks and they kind of joke about things that are happening. And I'm like, listen, if this was real, and this was really happening, and you were in that situation, you wouldn't be making jokes. You would be, like, fighting for your life to get out of there because you'd be scared that you're going to die. So, yeah, like I said, it was okay. It wasn't great. I've definitely read better. Columbine by Dave Cullen is the best I've read so far about a school shooting. I know it's based on real events, so that makes it better because there's more insight, but it was brilliant. This one didn't enjoy so much. And also, another thing that annoyed me was, because it's told from 4 different perspectives, at the beginning of the book, as we were reading from perspective to perspective, the perspectives kind of picked up where the last ones left off. So you didn't have to backtrack. You didn't have to backtrack and then try and like go back and figure out why this perspective was, why the thoughts in this perspective were happening and stuff. But then at some point in the book, the author kind of does that for you. So you're reading, and then suddenly you go on to the next perspective, and you read from their point of view what you've just read from the previous point of view again, and then it carries on. And I'm like, why would you do that to us? Like, I know what's happened, and you just kind of switched up the writing style and made it a bit more complicated. Well, not complicated, but it kind of makes the reader feel not stupid, but I know that like the whole idea is to kind of catch us up to speed, but every single second of this book you're reading from perspective to perspective, so you don't need to be caught up in what's happening. We don't need to be reminded, because it's just a continuous story. If it was in like parts, and in different parts they were talking about different things, then maybe we'd need a little catch up. But when you're reading from perspective to perspective for the whole book, the book does that anyway. You don't need to do that. So yeah, like I said, it was disappointing. It was good, the story was good, and it was interesting that everybody knew the shooter, and the kind of backstory as to how the shooter became so, not interested, became so like enamoured with this idea of getting revenge because of things that have happened to him in the past, and he feels like he's been let down by everyone. I thought that was handled really well, but it just kind of didn't hit the mark for me. So I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Not the best, but I did read all the way to the end, so that counts for something, and I did enjoy it. But yeah, like I said, thinking back on it, there were a couple of things where I was like, really? Like, that wasn't necessary. So yeah, there you go. That is my review of This Is Where It Ends by Marieke Nijkamp. If you've read this book and you want to talk to me about it, or you don't agree with my thoughts on it, just let me know in the comments below and we can have a chat. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you wish, you may subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow me on Goodreads, just search for Lee Johnson. And you can follow my bookstagram at bookishtrances. And yeah, I will see you all again very soon. Thank you for watching this video. Goodbye.